Welcome to Real Women's Stories with me, Lisa Quait. This is my midweek episode. Thank you so much for joining me today. And this is following the interview that I had with Jackie Commissar. So Jackie explained about her life journey with her husband, Tony. And when he got sick, she was left having to make some really tough decisions on her own as a woman and as a wife. You know, what happens when your partner gets sick and you as a woman, if your husband gets ill, and you as a woman are left carrying the baton? Do you know where everything is? Does your mum and your dad know where everything is? You know, does your mum know where all the documents are? Do your parents have a financial plan in place? Do they know what's going to happen to either one of them, if one of them gets sick? You know, these are all kind of topics that we should really be talking about pre those situations happening. So this is really a session about questioning ourselves and questioning what we should do, first of all, as children, and secondly, should we be speaking to our parents now and asking them and making sure that they've had those discussions together? You know, the what ifs. And you know what? I'm feeling uncomfortable kind of talking about it. It's making me feel, like a bit lost for words. So how would we feel if the incidents actually happen? It's going to feel a lot worse, isn't it? At that point where somebody's in that traumatic situation and completely anxious and fearful. So I'm kind of feeling that it's better to have those conversations now rather than wait until the situation arises. Communication is absolutely key. You know, get together as a family and start having chats. Just having very relaxed chats like, Mum, Dad, you know, do you have a financial plan in place? You know, Dad, if you get sick, what financial plans do you have for Mum? So that we know either what we need to provide or where are the documents. During challenging times with our parents, we need to really pull together as siblings. You know, you may be a sibling on your own, but if you do have brothers and sisters, it shouldn't just be on that one person. The family should learn to pull together. So if you have one parent who is not well and the other parent who's a carer, make sure you as children are supporting your parents, because it is so important to encourage and offer emotional support during those challenging times. Make sure that the main carer is providing or getting self-care. Maybe they just want to go and meet their friends for lunch or go for a coffee, and the husband or wife can't be left alone for whatever reason, and they haven't been able to have a carer come in, because I know the government and the community does have carers that come in and help them at certain times. It is so important to offer that help. Now, as children, we should be there for our parents, and it sometimes gets a little bit tricky with some conflict that can happen between us, because everybody has a different opinion on what is the right way and what is the wrong way. If we have those conversations with our parents before a critical situation happens, we can ask them, you know, what is it that you would want in those situations? And then you can discuss it with your siblings. So if something does arise and there is conflict and one sibling doesn't agree with something else, try and draw back to the conversation that you've had. It may not be right, because obviously when you're in a situation, that situation may mean that there's a different type of avenue that you might need to explore in order to help your parent. But just try and stay focused and calm, because the last thing that our parents want us to do as kids is fight and have conflict. It's so important that we have our parents' best interests at heart. And we really step back and we really think, is this what I want or is this what they would want? And then we need to discuss that between us as siblings. So we have effective communication, we pull together, we support each other, and we're supporting our parents through the difficult times that they are going through as the main carer. So this episode really is about pulling together as siblings and ensuring that we lay the platforms, we lay the platform before our parents get sick and before they start aging. Because after all, it is scary out there. But if we do pull together and if we do help them, I really think it would make them feel a lot more comfortable. And I'd definitely be doing that with my parents. And we do have very open discussions about what would happen if one of you got sick. What is it that you want? Do you want to go into a retirement home? Would you want a carer at home? What is it that you want? Now, I appreciate that financially it may not be available to everybody, but if people can financially afford it and you do have a financial in place, then have those discussions and ask them what they want. So yeah, it really did get me thinking after speaking to Jackie, and I was having conversations with people on the phone that were calling up and going, oh, you know, my dad suddenly got sick, and or my dad's going in for an operation, or we've just found out that one of my parents has got dementia. It's not that bad at the moment, but you know, what's going to happen in the future? Let's try and pull together and let's find out about what help there is in the community, what help we can do as siblings, as children. You know, speak to your children. You know, grandma and grandpa might need your help. We might need you to help us if grandma and grandpa get sick, or if one of them is indeed sick or deteriorating. It's so important. I know that I did with my grandparents. I hope that some of this, it's probably, you know, quite a triggering conversation to be had. But if we do have the conversations now, then I really genuinely believe that it will be it won't be easier to deal with, but the emotions will be a bit easier to deal with, because when we're in a traumatic situation, when something happens, we can't think straight. So let's have those difficult conversations now. Let's talk to our parents, because I guarantee you know what they'll think? My kids love me. My kids care about me. My kids are asking me those questions now because they genuinely care about me, and I'm sure they'll feel thankful to you. I'd love to hear back from you. I'd love to hear whether or not you've had those conversations with your parents. And I'm sure the rest of the people listening to this podcast would also like to hear, you know, have you got any helpful advice or tips either on how to approach the situation, approach the conversation with your siblings, with your parents? What have you got in place? Do you have things in place for your parents, or have your parents had things in place for your grandparents? I'd love for you to get in touch with me. You can do, I've got an email address. It's TheRealStoriesPodcast@gmail.com. That's TheRealStoriesPodcast@gmail.com. Why not let me know if you have any helpful advice that you could give the rest of the listeners, because I really am trying to grow this community. And also I'd like Jackie's age group to listen to these podcasts. So if anybody would like to give us some advice and give, you know, our parents advice on what to do, it would be really helpful. And I'd love to feature you on my podcast. So you can write in, like I said, there's an email address, TheRealStoriesPodcast@gmail.com. That's TheRealStoriesPodcast@gmail.com. I know this is a difficult episode, and I just hope you found this helpful, because it's been quite hard discussing it, but I know that I'm going to be speaking more to my parents about their future plans, you know, the what ifs. Let's talk about the what ifs. What would happen, Mum? What is it that you would like? Let's make sure that we've got all of this, the structure in place, so that we can be there for our parents, we can be there for our grandparents, and we know, God forbid anything happens, that we do have the structure in place to support them and help them just the way they helped us when we were kids. I hope everyone has a good week, and I hope that you are enjoying this podcast. If you are, you can rate and review us. If you go to the show on your podcast app and you scroll all the way to the bottom, there is a rate and there is a review. So have a good week and take care of yourselves and show your parents how much you love them.